Biggest cause for these rises in tuition right now have been these budget cuts. It's ridiculous. I have no idea how anybody else is coming up with these other things. So private student loan companies grew by ninefold in the last 2 decades, and really, if you want to say who's pushing the rise in student debt that is now at $1 trillion, it was at $900 billion when I did this thing in April, it would be private loan companies, because they can accumulate debts for at least 25 years, and they usually do much longer. And they have an incentive to have people to continue to make these very profitable, competitive stuff. At the same time, between 92 and 2004, this was in a much better period than we're in right now. College-eligible students, that is students who passed high school, in lower-income families, saw a drop in their college attainment by about 50%. It's 54% to 40%, excuse me. Amongst a lot of Ivy Leagues, even though they've, improved their diversity, many of these, non-white college students ended up coming from wealthy families or from immigrants as well. I wanted to tie this with a larger narrative, not that I want to make a meta-narrative, with globalization. So a lot of these things, we've been having sort of this credit economy that has developed in the last, it's not going to be 40 years, it's been happening since the 70s. And a lot of this has been the result of the sort of neoliberal project that Chris has talked about, and sort of stagnating wages despite increasing productivity, which almost runs in the face of economics 101. It's if productivity increases, then our wages are supposed to go up. We've seen this rise in the credit economy, and a lot of things that I heard during this crisis, actually specifically amongst people that I know, was these low-income families lived beyond their means. They didn't know how to live beyond these things, but their very means were destroyed in the last 40 years, that they could even rise themselves above to have minimal standards of living. Because when the globalization project happened, we basically had two things we could do. You could either take a lower standard of living in order to compete with, let's say, 11-year-old children making car parts in third world countries, or you could sort of rise yourself above. And that was kind of Robert Reich's idea that he talked about when he was a little more neoliberal. Now he's trying to become more left. Was that we were transferring to a service economy, and we're going to have really highly educated people who could actually shift between different jobs, very easily. And so it kind of put this humongous pressure on, having college attainment. But the neoliberal project did absolutely nothing to help anybody on this. So instead what has happened is, even in the recession right now, a college degree still, can predict about 27% of value between, let's say, people who have, a bachelor's degree and someone without a bachelor's degree. The person with a bachelor's degree tends to make 27% on average. And of course that comes to the ability of career improvement in the future. Probably depends on the sector as well. One thing that in April I was kind of big about is we should seek to repeal the Bankruptcy Abuse Prevention Act of 2005. Now we have this ginormous movement that definitely has a lot of pressure, and every single day it seems like it grows. It has a lot of pressure on the top, because now people can't even ignore it. So now they're trying to play with it. I think we should just push for some really radical either restructuring on student debt, or I'll go for abolishing the $1 trillion of debt right now. Why not? And eventually free higher education. Why not? Norway has it, Denmark has it, England had it in the 20th century. I saw one study that was looking at the loans that are discharged now, which I said can only literally happen if you have 3 children, you make under $20,000, you have a dependent spouse, let's say with some mental illness. The average age for them tends to be in the 40s. So they've already been with that loan for 20 years. They've already defaulted on loan for 40 years. If we kind of, let's say, bailed out a lot of these students coming out from college right now, they'll probably use it more on investments like houses, cars, and bigger investments that would actually move the economy around. So I think, consequentially, my consequentialist ethics, it would be beneficial. One of the ways that I think we could finance sort of better higher education, I think somebody in the email wrote we should push for more state funding, which I think is better than pushing just for better loan rates, because that's just going to accumulate debt as it is. is the imposition of a transaction tax. And just yesterday, Adbusters called for like well, I think it was global movement for like the Robinhood tax, what is colloquially called, but securities transaction and exchange tax. And a 0.5% in the United States alone, even conservatively, like assuming, let's say, volume dropped by 25% in the stock market, which would happen in never, could generate $100 billion in revenue. A lot of people talk about, I don't want to put more sort of debt on my grandchildren, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to put burdens on them. But the biggest burden we can put on them is not actually developing our resources right now. I mean, one of the reasons we actually have semi-good quality of life is right now in the United States because the generation before us go to college and create all these things that have made my life so much better. Like, it's not only is it something that we need to like be able to assist in school, but it's like an ethical argument as well. I mean, I'm about to graduate in spring 2012, and I look back at the last 4 years of my life, and I've seen a complete transformation. I've had like this great opportunity to like explore tons of avenues and develop your faculty. And it's something really important that everybody here should have the opportunity to have, because I mean, the human condition is we have one life to live.